Hey everyone, welcome. I'm Naomi, and today I have a really fun yoga class for you. So in your yoga class today, I'm going to lead you through 10 yoga poses in just 10 minutes. So what that really means is you're going to hold each pose for about a minute, just a little bit less so that you can transition into and out of them, so that your yoga practice is really just going to be about 10 minutes long, maybe a little bit closer to 11 because of this introduction and because when we close, I'll say goodbye. But other than that, it's going to be a really quick, really fun, really dynamic practice that's going to focus on stability, so holding poses, but also sort of mental stability, right? Mental endurance. So when you know that there's a time limit on poses, sometimes it can make you only think about the time. And this is going to give you the opportunity to not only work your body, but work your mind. Okay, so you're not going to need any props for this class. And because each of the poses that I've chosen is going to flow really easily from one to the next, everything is going to be symmetrical. So you're not going to have to switch sides or switch legs or anything like that. You're just going to go from pose to pose in 10 minutes. Okay, ready to get started? All right, awesome. Let's make some magic happen. So come onto your hands and knees, please. Come into table pose. Place your hands as wide apart as your shoulders, knees as wide apart as your hips, and start with a little cat-cow. So as you inhale, lengthen your belly and chest forward. Exhale and round up. Just move with your breath. So your inhale will lead your belly and chest forward. Your exhale will guide your spine up towards the sky. And remember, too, that as you move in cat-cow, you can move a little bit more dynamically. It doesn't have to be straight forward and back. You can move in some circles. But just take this time to warm up your spine and to get ready for the next 9 poses. Just a little bit more time here. And then lift your knees and hips up and stretch into downward facing dog, pose number 2. Okay, so I'm going to remind you in this moment in downward facing dog that you can wiggle if you need to. You can bend your knees. You can shake your hips out from side to side. Just really a reminder that you don't have to stay fixed, right? Just because we're focusing on stability and endurance mentally and physically, it doesn't mean that you have to be completely still. Okay, so give yourself permission to move in whatever way feels good for you. Your hands should be about as wide apart as your shoulders, feet about as wide apart as your hips. Creases of your wrists, even with the front of your mat. And from your upper back, push down through your arms as you stretch your hips upward. And you can bend your knees too if you're feeling a little tight in your hammies. So just a few more breaths here. And then inhale forward into plank pose, pose number 3. So plank pose is another pose where I want to remind you that if a minute feels really long and feels really impossible because plank pose is not easy to hold for 10 seconds, much less 60, you can always put one knee down, maybe put the other knee down, maybe put both knees down. You can always take breaks as you need them. Okay, so really just listen to what your body needs. You can take your feet wider apart is another good option because sometimes that'll give you a little bit more stability in the pose. But just know that you've got this. No matter what. Even squeeze the mat with your fingers a little bit. And just know that you have the strength to persevere for another 4 seconds. Good, and then lower your knees, lower your hips, no chaturanga, and lift into cobra. It's like a relief to be in cobra pose after plank for 60 seconds. And again, just like in all the other poses, you can wiggle a little bit. You can stretch back through your toes as you lift your chest. You can lift your chin and then take your chin down. You can look over one shoulder and then the other. And you can even lower down a little bit more. or lift up. But just give yourself a few more breaths here. Strong legs. Squeeze your heels inward as you lift your chest. Shoulders engaged on your back. A jaunty smile, tripping delight, fantastic across your face, for real. Good, now shift your hips back and lower your forearms to the ground. And then lift your knees and hips up into dolphin pose. Okay, so in dolphin pose, you want your elbows directly underneath your shoulders. From your elbows, stretch out through your wrists, out through your fingers, and even lengthen by shrugging your shoulders a bit up towards your ears to make space in your side body. And you can bend your knees and wiggle your hips from side to side. Just give yourself a few more breaths here. Keep your gaze a little bit more forward, not all the way up to your fingers, not all the way back towards your feet, somewhere in the middle. Okay, just 2 more breaths, and then you're going to push up and walk your hands back to your feet into a forward bend, Uttanasana. Again, huge relief. So you get to fold forward into Uttanasana and just release your upper back after all of that work in dolphin pose. Now make sure that your legs are really well engaged, so your legs are active and strong, muscles working towards the bones. Take a full breath in. Full breath out as you let your head be heavy. And if you're feeling tightness in your hips, you can always take your feet a little bit wider apart. Just bend your knees, right? All right, and then for real, bend your knees and come into Utkatasana. So Utkatasana, most people like to call this pose chair pose. I like to think of this pose as public restroom pose because I think it's a little bit more accurate because nobody sits in a chair like this, right? Okay, but this is the one that I sort of like, you've got a lot of options for how to hold your arms. You can keep your forearms rested on your thighs. You can bring your palms in front of your chest. You can reach them straight out in front of you. You can go all the way up. Hands on your thighs is going to be so much easier. But remember too, you don't have to be static here. So if you want to lift one heel up and put it down, other heel up, put it down. You want to swing your hips from side to side. You only have 10 more seconds. Who knew a minute was so long, right? Like Utkatasana shows you how long a minute can be, right? So take a full breath in, just 3 more seconds in Utkatasana. And then lower your hands to the floor, knees to the floor. Lift your hips up, hands to your hips. Okay, roll your shoulders back and give your legs a good squeeze. Now you can keep your hands at your hips or take one hand to your ankle. Maybe take the other hand to your ankle. Okay, if your neck is a little bit more sensitive, you can place one hand behind your head and press your head into your hand. It's going to give your head and neck a little bit more support, but it's also just going to give you a little bit more direction for your chest. And again, if you're feeling steady, you can bring your hands to your ankles and keep your legs really strong and your chest really lifted. Just for another 10 seconds. Can you believe it? Just 10 seconds. And if your neck gets tired, hand behind your head. One or both. Both is more work for your core, so that's exciting. You could lift yourself up. I got so carried away. We went longer than a minute. Okay, now lift your knees away from the floor, maybe one at a time, and you come into a squat. And if your heels don't come down to the ground in the squat, you can put a blanket underneath your heels to give them a lift, or you can lift your hips up way high to put your heels on the ground. But bring your left arm to the inside of your left leg. Squeeze your leg against your arm. Lift your right arm up. And then bring your right arm to the inside of your right leg. Left arm up. And then bring your left arm down and just hold for a few more breaths. And then coming down to sit for your final pose. This is pose number 10, Baddha Konasana. So soles of your feet come together. Okay, sit up really long and tall. And just take a few breaths here. This is it. This is your last pose. And you can stay right here. You don't have to do anything else. You can close your eyes even and just anchor. Full breath in. Full breath out. And a full breath in. Full out. If you want to walk your hands forward just a little bit, just to give yourself a little bit more of a stretch, you can do that. And walk yourself back up. And that's it. That's your practice. You just did 10 poses in 10 minutes, which is amazing. Okay, hopefully you are feeling really great after this quick 10-minute practice. And hopefully it's a reminder to you that you don't need to do like a 30-minute practice to feel amazing in your body. Sometimes all you need is 10 minutes, and that's perfect. So I hope that you enjoyed this 10-minute practice. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know if you'd like to see something like this again on this channel. And as always, if you are enjoying what you see here, give me a thumbs up on this video and subscribe in the bottom right-hand corner so that you can get videos like this delivered to your inbox every single Monday, totally for free. So thank you for hanging out with me today. It is an absolute privilege to share this practice with you, and I look forward to seeing you on the mat again really soon. Bye, everyone.